deepening agency banking, okay, or what we call agent network, in underserved communities is important, okay, for scaling. Then we also need to look at, reducing the transaction fee.
I feel the way the country is going, you can't, tomorrow is not sure. So to have a certain tomorrow, I would encourage especially young people to go into savings, to go into insurance, to go into a pension scheme, because tomorrow might not be guaranteed. So they have something to fall on to tomorrow.
On insurance policy in Nigeria, we are managing it. It's not encouraging. By the time the insurance we attract you, we want to woo you to their business. The condition given to you will be very sweet, very nice. Coming to the contract of involving with them, you see the character of insurance. So in a developed country, it is not like that. When African, like I'm coming from a cooperative meeting now. They say something of, I don't want to mention that insurance because I'm not advertising. He's talking everything into our benefit of pensioner, that when you die, they're going to pay this, they're going to pay that. Go and die, finish. When you die, finish, let your family go and meet them. The condition given to us, I'm just from the meeting now. The insurance, by the time they are giving us all these conditions, we are just laughing, we are clapping. I'm not condemning insurance, but the policy, the condition given initially is all good. But when you enter into that policy, when something happens, eventuality happen, you see the other side of insurance.
The truth about insurance is this: I'm not much of a fan of insurance too, especially in Nigeria. In a situation whereby it is when you are paying your premium that you have insurance. By the time crisis comes, and then they begin to give you all kinds of stories here and there, they begin to show you some fine lines.
I have insurance because I do a 9-to-5 work, and so one thing about insurance is a long-term thing. It's a long-term thing. You are not talking about just trying to get money tomorrow. It is for people that have beyond just any money today. You want to have some savings against tomorrow. I think even recently, was it yesterday, Pencom, they released a memo regarding about, I think they increased the percentage from 33 to 35. So all of these are also encouragement. So as I use Stanbic Bank for my pension, I think they are quite recommendable. So there are also few ones I can use as well, and it's a good one. At least for 20 years, 25 years, you can have something to say after 50 years of working. Have something to rely on as your pension.
For the aspect of insurance, you need to, that's where sensitization comes in. You understand? Enlightenment. Community enlightenment. So you need to enlighten the public, especially those who don't know anything about insurance. Do you understand? Enlighten them by letting them know the benefits. Do you understand? And then also adding or showing them the incentives. Do you understand? Making it enticing. Do you understand? So then for those who don't have bank accounts, you need to also let them know the advantages and disadvantages of not having an account. Do you understand? For easy transaction, and then you can't carry bulk money. You can't carry cash. So having an account makes it easier for you to transact from wherever or any part of the country where you are. Do you understand? So enlightenment, do you understand? Information dissemination, do you understand? Giving out information and letting people know. Do you understand? So those are how we can encourage people to, have accounts or do insurance or do all those stuff.
Talking about financial inclusion, I think probably I would say that technology is already driving us in the right direction. We have no choice. We just have to flow with the tide. Yes, anyway, it happens that I used to be a banker. So I know that Nigeria used to be very, very, grossly underbanked. A lot of Nigerians don't have a bank account. But with the way technology is driving us, almost everybody has a phone. And so with that phone and the fintech industry, the emergence of the fintech industry, people are opening all kinds of bank accounts. And now with the fact that now even with your phone number, you can open a business account, especially for the micro entrepreneurs now. You can also open a business account on Money Points, on OPay, Kuda. You can have your normal account. I think things are changing. So what I think should be done is probably a little bit more of enlightenment, because people are always insecure when they don't know where their money is. You understand? Like if you talk to an average person that that is the money of the year, so we are spending. So because people don't know where their money is, so if we can just build their confidence and their trust in the system, I think whether we like it or not, technology will surely push us in the right direction. So what we need is just a little more of enlightenment, educating the traders, the self-employed. You know, by the time we do all those things, I think people will do better. There'll be an increase.
First thing is to assure them of safety, because I think from track record goes far, a number of times people have been able to track what they spend in terms of their expenditure and also what comes into their accounts. So that assurance of tracking alone is enough encouragement. Another thing is safety. Safety in terms of being sure that their money is safe. I mean, people can easily put money in their accounts, and so when something happens to maybe a deduction or so, they can know where the money is going to. Even when it may be somebody steals the ATM card or something, they can easily know where the money is going to. So all of these things helps people to be encouraged. And then another thing is that it also, you can also have some sort of encouragement, or let me say information from the Nigerian Orientation Agency, that is NOA, about the fact that what the bank is for. Because I think government, so far, CBN wants to reduce the circulation of cash. Okay, so what that implies is that they want more money to be transacted through online and all of that. So to actually get these things done, it's better we have all this money, okay, going through bank. And so the government also needs to work with these banks to have seamless transactions. For instance, OPay. I use OPay because it's so seamless. Within 1 minute, I can transfer to any account, and I really have mistakes. So all of these things about like OPay, Money Points, they can easily help. So that seamless transaction alone is part of the encouragement.
That video was about financial inclusion, the wholesome of it, not just insurance, not just other issues, but it's interesting that there's an unpacked stories there. People have a lot of experience and issues to talk about, but despite the growing adoption of digital payments, several challenges still hinder widespread use of effective payment system in Nigeria. Nigeria's journey towards financial inclusion reflects a blend of notable achievement and ongoing challenges. Financial inclusion is not just a social issue, it also has substantial economic effects, including savings, investment opportunities, and economic stability. Closing exclusion gap in access to and use of financial services, particularly for women and in the rural areas, will help Nigerians harness the full potential of its population, which is crucial to achieving sustainable economic growth and poverty alleviation. Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on WebTV Focus Nigeria. I am Gabriel Jude from Lagos, Nigeria. Today we shall be discussing a critical issue that has been deteriorating over time: financial inclusion in Nigeria, gaps and opportunities to scale. And my guest today is Mr. Tayo Muritala. Is the head of research EnterpriseNGR. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Gabriel.
Okay, so let's begin with your assessment of Nigerians' current digital financial services landscape in identifying gaps and opportunities for scale and financial inclusion across 36 states. I know from the video you had some concerns about insurance, digital payment system, fintechs kind of payment system. So what's your assessment?
I will try as much as possible to dissect progress, so far, and try to talk about opportunities and gaps, that still exist in that space. But one thing is important in that over the past decade, Nigeria's digital financial services space has been transformed significantly. and we have to allude to that. If you look at where we are coming from, we have moved from a financial system that was one dominated by banks, right? And we are now, operating a system that is powered and driven by fintechs, right? And that includes mobile money operators, agent banking networks, and as well as payment service banks, right? I mean, these were the things we didn't have before, right? So we've made significant progress, okay? However, the progress we have made and the efforts has been deliberate in the sense that in 2012, the Central Bank of Nigeria launched the National Financial Inclusion Strategy and as well created the National Financial Inclusion Secretariat to drive and coordinate the implementation of that strategy. And at that time, the goal for the National Financial Inclusion Secretariat was, to close the exclusion gap from 46.3% to 20% by 2020. Why that was a tall order, so to say, we began to see regulatory innovation, around things like tiered KYC, the introduction of mobile money licensing frameworks. And we also saw the introduction of instant payment infrastructure. We have NIPS, right, the payment system, and as well as, giving licenses to operate payment services, banking, right? So these are levers that have driven growth in Nigeria's digital financial services space, right? And because we did that, and we did that very well at the beginning, it started attracting interest from international investors, and international, investments started to come into Nigeria. Today, Nigeria is among the top 3 economies in Africa in terms of fintech investment inflow. Okay, so I think that is a great achievement for Nigeria, for us. However, we can't say that there are no gaps. Gaps exist, because if you look at the 36 states, growth is not even. Okay, the northern part of the country has higher exclusion rate compared to the southern part. And also, women are still disproportionately excluded. And if you look at the large informal workforce in Nigeria, which is significantly large, right? It's proving inclusion difficult. Apart from those 3 challenges, there are other challenges. Okay, there are challenges around infrastructure constraints. Okay, low penetration of broadband networks, unreliability of electricity, right? So these are limitations to scaling. And another important and big factor is trust. I wish you could just survey opinions of low-income earners and people in the remote locations to ask about what their views are regarding trust in technology, trust in the financial institutions.
I think from the video, some people talk about trust issues.
Exactly. So you will be amazed. So let me dwell a bit on the opportunities that still exist, right? Deepening agency banking, okay, or what we call agent network, in underserved communities is important, okay, for scaling. Then we also need to look at, reducing the transaction fee. Okay, these are the areas. If we are able to address some of these, then we will be looking at scaling. But that is not to say these are just the two, areas where opportunity will unfold. There are other things like, product design, coming up with micro products like micro pension products, micro insurance products.
To further deepen your answers to the assessment, financial inclusion in Nigeria, so let's look at statistics here. And in 2011, we have only 30% of Nigerians adults had formal account, which shows that we have limited access to financial services. In 2014, we have, it had an increase to 44%. That was a drop from, 40% in 2017, reaching 45% in 2021. So, and from 2021 to date, what are the progress that has been made?
Interesting. Financial inclusion has actually risen steadily, just from observation, borrowing from the data that you just quoted, right? And based on the latest data available from EFINA, that's enhancing financial innovation and access. 74%.
The advancement now.
In 2023, that's financial inclusion in general, not just formal. And 74% in 2023 compared to 67% in 2020. So we've been able to, move by 7% basis points, right? So that growth could be attributed to certain factors, right? And one is the expansion in digital payments, services. Everyone makes payments, isn't it? Then the second thing is growth in agent banking, right? Networks, in agents being able to go into remote locations to serve and provide services, there. And the third thing is the regulatory reforms, right? Kudos to the central bank and other adjacent regulators in the space. The progress has been made in some significant way. And I believe that what is particularly notable in all of this is the fact that Nigeria has now kind of moved from, just from mere access, people just having access, to usage. And I will explain what I mean by that. Before now, you could have someone who has an account with a formal financial institution and never uses it. Okay. But that is no longer common, because if you have an account, you are either receiving payments or you are paying somebody. If you are not doing payments, you are doing saving. If you are not doing saving, you you are doing credits. If you are not doing credit, you are doing insurance, pension. Okay, so there are products that have been designed and expanded, right? So, however, we would have made much more, we would have made much progress, but for the nature of the informal economy in Nigeria, which is significantly large. I think I talked about that in the way while I was responding to your first question. If you look at this economy, it is difficult to penetrate into this economy because of the volatile nature of income, okay, that people, earn. And the illiteracy level is another factor. The ability of people to understand basic financial terms.
I was going to ask you that because you talked about so many components, so you didn't mention awareness. So.
Exactly. So that is another key factor in that, to penetrating into that economy. Another thing is affordability. How many of them can afford smartphones? Okay, then we can now move to the issue of trust that we talked about earlier on. Okay, so you need to address all these challenges to be able to get this group of people into the financial inclusion nets.
Okay, so where are we? Where do you think we are as a nation in terms of technology? Because, even in the cities, there are people who don't even believe internet, they don't believe in digital platforms. Where are we? Because that is one major factor in financial inclusion.
Well, if you look at I will address that question from the work that needs to be done in terms of education and awareness. There's a lot of work that needs to be done when it comes to educating people, right? Don't assume that sitting down in Lagos or in Abuja or in Port Harcourt, seeing people using technology, having smartphone, making payments, Nigeria is as advanced, using that sample to justify. It's not sufficient. You need to go to one of the local governments, maybe the least local government in Kano, go to Katsina, okay, go to Kebbi, take similar sample and then compare. Okay, so we are growing and that growth is not even. Okay, so and if you look at some of these challenges, okay, let me give you one example. Is our broadband penetration, okay, that allows people to have access to be able to operate their smartphone effectively. Okay, as of December 2025, we were able to get to just 50.58% coverage, meaning that half of the population don't have access to networks.
In 2015, talking about recession here, we've been talking about factors that limit financial inclusion. So in recession issues, we have exchange rate floating, we have income, which we are slashed. If you are aware, I know you touched that, reducing naira purchasing, and all of it, or making imports, which most Nigerians do as as business, and also things are very expensive, right? So what are the gaps identified during this period, and how long? Because when we talk about financial inclusion, is when he who has money that will think of savings. will think of, who has eaten well, that will think of insuring his property. Who has eaten well, that will think of, I want to do investment. All right, and many people, so, you made a profound statement about making demography of how well we do in terms of technology, and also we also sample Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Abuja, which is true, because when you talk about Nigeria, even clients, even investors abroad, they always look at these places. But these are just 3 states in the whole 36 states. So how has it been?
Awesome. I mean, if you look at 2015 recession, what that actually did was to expose several structural weaknesses in Nigeria's financial system. Our overdependence on imports and FX vulnerability. And that really, impacted negatively fintech infrastructure cost. Okay. Another thing is low household financial resilience. Okay, because naturally, households in Nigeria, I'm talking about average household in Nigeria, the saving buffer is usually limited. And what happened then was there were high rates of loan defaults. Okay, so people took loan and they couldn't pay back because, there were no savings. Okay, then the third thing was low domestic capital funding, and that's speaks to the sustainability of startup, to that extent. So these were the structural weaknesses that were revealed during that period. And of course, I'm not saying that it's only limited to that particular period. It continues. Okay, some of them still remain up to today. Okay, but in terms of how the industry or the sector has been able to handle some of these challenges, one is increasing usage of digital platforms. Okay, so digital platforms, using digital platform is no longer a matter of condition. If I need to, I will. It is just a necessity, because cash crunch in the economy, you can't access FX. The only option is to use digital channel.
How is it necessity to a common person in the village who do not even understand? When you mentioned Kano, northern part of Nigeria, when they don't have formal education,
So now you can evaluate the impact of that recession at that time over there, because you might be sitting down here in Lagos
transfer,
and then being doing transfer, but over there they couldn't get cash
they cannot do transfer because they don't know
to buy anything. Do you understand? So now we can appreciate,
financial inclusion.
Exactly, and what payments, services. Why it's a payment services platforms are important. All right. So that is one way. Another way how we're able to manage that situation was to tap into diaspora funding. Okay, and then startups started to, get funded. But that is not to say that the only thing that we relied on, okay, was diaspora funding. No, the other funding also came from other sources. But I'm making the point that, diaspora funding, came, and we began to focus on how important it was at that time. All right.
Okay, so we really need to wrap up, right? Time is against us. So, but then I think that there are more to these things, right? There are more things we could do instead of advocating and more as trying to accelerate financial, technologies, things, fintech, because one problem that I always talk about is awareness, education. And we can achieve this we can achieve acceleration of fintechs, financial inclusion without awareness.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are the other ways, as you would give us your concluding thought as we wrap up on Nigerians' position competitiveness in digital financial services, achieve scale and all of that. What are the other ways, to be able to do this? Maybe we could just be talking about awareness first before now bringing in, because I do not want to say, I don't have the statistics, but I do not want to say that Nigeria is left behind in terms of technology. Lagos and Abuja and Port Harcourt are not the only states that we'll be talking about. Yeah. And now we are in the AI, So
yeah, let me touch a bit on awareness and education. There is a need to actually carry out a large scale level of awareness because people need to know about financial risks. People need to know about fraud and prevention. Okay, don't forget that we've fully entered into that technology era now. Everything is about technology. Everything is on internet. Your money is hosted on internet. You can't do everything you want to do on internet and so on. And so this is the time to drive awareness. Okay, along those lines. Okay, how can they prevent themselves against fraud, against those risks? Okay, so that is very, very important. In terms of trust, okay, which is also, when you are doing it's part of awareness, educating people to let people know that this is, what they should, what financial services and financial services is all about. You understand my point. So, but I will say that addressing the issue of trust goes beyond just awareness and education. We must be able to put in place, and consumers need to see all of this. Strong enforcement.
I think that CBN has done that for fintechs.
Exactly.
Transaction fees reduction and all of that.
Exactly.
Things.
Exactly. So strong enforcement, it has to be a continuous thing. Strong enforcement, okay, on consumer protection rights. Here we are talking about data privacy and transparency pricing that you just touched on. The other thing is efficient dispute resolution process. Okay, so there must be penalties for infringement, and customer must know that once penalties are set and implemented, and people
aware of it,
see that, they will sit right.
Right.
Okay, then those are the things in addition to awareness. Educating people about trust and stuff. But we shouldn't also forget the place of culture when it comes to awareness.
I think
when it comes to trust.
Okay, so in 1 minute, your closing thought, please, before we wrap up. That means against us.
Okay. Well, what I will say is that Nigeria can be a continental leader in Africa when it comes to digital financial services. Okay, because we have the scale, we have the number, we have the talent, we have the investors' interest, and most importantly, we have regulatory maturity. Look at where we are coming from and look at where we have today. Look at what things that we have achieved today. Right. So Nigeria can be a continental leader if it positions itself, and if we are able, if we align on policy, we align on innovation, we align on capital and infrastructure, we can close the financial inclusion gap. Lastly, what I will say is, and that may probably be my closing thought, is that the next frontier is not just about inclusion. It is about productive inclusion. So bringing millions of people into the financial system must translate into credit access, that is access to credit for MSMEs, must translate to risk protection for households. It must translate to pension security for that guy in the informal sector. And most importantly, it must translate to capital formation for the real economy.
Okay, so thank you so much. But where is my submission, right? And I want to, maybe in your research as head of research EnterpriseNGR, is that we should going forward include all this part of Nigeria, all these other states, not just Lagos, Abuja, because when IMF want to give a report on how well we are doing, they take data overall. And then when we want to give, report on how we are doing in Nigeria, then we begin to look at these certain three areas, three places, then forget. So we need to inculcate and we need to include other things so that we know how well we are doing, because how well we are doing is how united we are. Thank you so much for being on this program, and thank you so much for your insightful, discussion and conversation and your enlightenment. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. And that will be all for the edition of WebTV Focus program today. For more information on finance, the market, banking, the economy, and investing, please visit the ProShare website, WebTV, YouTube, and follow our social media platform displayed on the screen. Moreover, if you have any questions or concerns about what we do here, please put them in the comment section, and we'll appreciate it. Thank you everyone for watching. I am Gabriel Jude. Have a great day, and bye for now.